Today, we're thrilled to introduce Michael Doyle, a distinguished rowing coach with an impressive career spanning elite, university and school levels. Michael holds a graduate diploma in elite sports, coaching from the Australian Institute of Sport, and boasts Level 3 national coaching accreditation. His international coaching achievements include supporting the Chinese national team in 2019 and leading Great Britain's crews at World Cup events in 2001. As the chief coach of Cambridge University, he guided the Blue Boat to victory in the iconic Oxford vs Cambridge boat race. Join us as we explore his journey of dedication, triumphs and insights into the world of elite rowing coaching. Michael, welcome.
Yeah, it's been a while. You just took me down memory lane there in some regards. But yeah, thank you for having me. Looking forward to having a chat because it has been, I think the first time we came across each other was 1995.
Yes.
And for me, that was the first time I've ever held a professional job, if you know what I mean. Yeah. It was the first time I was ever being paid to coach.
Yep.
So in a way, that was, it was a massive eye-opener at the time.
Yes.
Because it was, yeah.
So you rowed at Sydney High School?
Yep, that's right.
So you just loved your rowing at Sydney High?
Well, I only did it in my last 2 years of school.
Okay.
So I was always playing cricket and then just was never good enough to be sort of at the top of the order or, even a half-decent bowler. So one day it was, let's go and do something else. A mate said, let's go to rowing. They do camps. And I honestly, I had this thing about, at a campfire and roasting marshmallows.
Yeah.
And so went along, and my first coach was a guy called Cess Pearce. Now, Cess rowed the single scull at Hitler's Olympics in 1936. So Cess, and
I love how rowing's got this history, and it's go on.
Yeah. So Cess was my first hands-on kind of coach, and ended up a year later as I was in his second 8 at Sydney High.
Wow.
And we were terrible. We really were. But as a crew, performance-wise, but as a crew, loved it.
Yes.
And it was the first time I really went to myself, I found something that I love.
Yeah.
And Cess was an older guy, much older, but yeah, the way he could relate to kids and he was just lovely. He was a gentleman.
Yeah.
His brother was Bobby Pearce, who's I think won 2 Olympic gold medals.
Right.
So he was in Amsterdam and I think LA.
Right.
So he represented Australia. So Cess, we were chatting to Cess one day, and I still remember him. We're talking about Berlin, and I'm pretty sure he made an A final, but he was unhealthy. He wasn't healthy on the day of the final, so didn't do great. And I still remember saying, so why didn't you do another Olympics, Cess? And he goes, Michael, we had a little problem with the Japanese coming down, and so that was his gentle way of saying he joined the army, and then he went up into the islands, and he was an engineer in the army.
Wow.
But yeah, just wonderful guy, tremendous. I can kind of vividly remember that head of the river night, where the stroke of the coach saying, with Cess, it was like you had a grandfather as your coach.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'd done everything in his life in terms of being successful. His son was in the Bob Sherlaw, Mike Morgan, 68 Mexico Olympic crew.
Right,
Yeah, and then his grandson was at Sydney High, and that's how Cess came and became involved with Sydney High rowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
But that's how I got into it.
And he was a figure that taught you more than just rowing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sort of guy that when you've never done rowing before, and I'm assuming he must have been in his early 70s, right?
Yeah.
And I still remember, we didn't have a pontoon at Sydney High. They were replacing the pontoon. So you used to have to try and get in and out of the water without a pontoon.
Was that around from Sydney Rowing Club?
That's it, on the point there, at Abbotsford.
Yeah.
And there was just a day I could not get my scull out because it was too low in the water. And Cess just leaned over and goes, out of the way, Michael. And he picked it up one-armed. And this is a 70-year-old guy.
Wow.
And then later on...
So he was in the 8 or something, was he? Or
he was... No, he did the single for Australia.
Scull, sorry.
Yeah. And his son was in the 8.
Right.
Gary Pearce.
Oh, okay.
And they're all Balmain people.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you know-
Are they connected to the Pierces from the rugby league?
I believe they are,
Yeah.
but you know.
No, well, it just seems like athletes, Pierce, Balmain. you know.
Yeah, and he was also tied in. He had relatives in the national water polo team, but just that classic, like he was working class from Balmain, and popped over to his house one day.
Tough as nails.
Oh mate, there was a picture of him on the wall. He'd won some regatta on the harbour, and just to see, we saw the 70-year-old Sess. Then this was the 20-odd-year-old Sess in a single scull, rippling muscles and all that sort of stuff. And that was Sess, Yeah.
And you must have been pretty smart, because isn't that a selective...
I'm sure it would have,
No, but isn't higher selective...
it is selective, yeah, but it's more selective now because it's a much larger catchment.
Right.
But I always thought it must have been a typo. Someone's... But yeah, well, because that first crew, I was in that first senior crew, like one of the guys, well, a few of the guys in that crew were just so intelligent. Yeah, really smart guys. But we were just tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Right.
And so I still remember, head of the river, I reckon, you hear all the beep, 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 and it just went on forever and we were still rowing, But it was just one of those things that, And I still thought it was the best day, and it was that classic was the best day and it was the worst day. You think this is the greatest thing, and then not the greatest result.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just...
Where did you come?
Oh, we came last.
Yeah.
Right? Came last, and then the next year sort of went, all right, we'll give this thing a shake. And our other coach in the first day was a guy, Fred Fullerton, who was also in his 70s.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
So second time around, we had fearless Fred Fullerton, and he was, if Sess was a grandfatherly figure, Fred was more of a taskmaster, like a hard-driven guy.
They were sort of a combo, were they?
Well, yeah, but very
year.
different.
Yeah.
Same age, but very different guys. So we really went and, when I say recruited, we got a couple of the guys out of cricket to come across to the 8. And so all of a sudden...
A couple of the fast bowlers.
Well, a couple of big boppers, yeah. And so, okay, we came 6th at the head of the river in the 8, but that was after a bit of injury and illness and the normal sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was just that, it was a time where going through high, we used to have 4 classes in a year, so you had 120 kids. But at that time, like quite a competitive rugby team, and reasonable across the sporting sort of, across all the different sports. So now I think the schools are a lot bigger and obviously a lot harder to get into. So, I just have so much respect for the people involved in the coaching at Sydney High, because I look back and I left High in 92 and went to Shore. So that crew, I think we came 5th at the head of the river, and it was really a bad result. Okay, so not a great result in terms of what we were capable of as a crew.
Yeah.
But we never got beaten by Shore the whole year. Yeah, so it was one of those years where we couldn't beat Joey's, couldn't beat Newington, couldn't get close. Yeah, but we were always third, 4th, a bad race 5th, yeah. And so, in a way, one thing led to another. I rang up Bob Sherlaw, thinking, I wonder if there's a job going.
How did you know him or...
Didn't know him.
No.
Never spoken to him.
Right.
So I just got his number, rang him up, and it was all timing. So Bob's been at Shore since 75. He was a builder by trade, a carpenter. And they brought him into Shore, and he won the first and second 4, and then I think he did it back-to-back again. They said, Bob, come in and work at Shore. So he went into the design technology, yeah? So
Had he been a rower himself? Yeah.
Yeah, so he was silver medalist from Tokyo, from Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Say no more.
Yeah. So Bob was there from 74, and I think he finished up in 2010.
Oh, right.
And there are some races where he may well have... He was close to 50% of medals in some races at different stages in that Shore career. But with Bob, he worked out that if you want to win the 8, so if that's something you want to do as a program, the person running the program can't coach the 8. So
Sure, right. Is that right? Yeah.
yeah. So what you'll find is a lot of programs that the top dog's like, oh yeah, I want to run the program, but I'm also going to co-coach the 8, and it doesn't work.
Do you think techniques go in cycles?
Yeah. So there's this whole thing about technique and focuses, and what you might see is that one nation might be doing a certain thing.
Yes. Then they sort of get results, and then
people mimic it.
Yeah.
There's also that thing is some people might say, oh, you're in a faster boat class, you want to do things slightly differently.
Right.
You've got more elite people who can row big angles, but also be amazing with rate because they're so skillful and technically good.
Yeah.
But things do go around and around and around.
So they do sort of go around, and yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing at Henley one year, Mike Spracklin had a crew. I think it was the Canadian men's 8. And I've never seen anyone sit back like what they were doing. I don't even know when it was. Maybe it was early 2000s. And I've never seen anyone do it. And I just remember I said to someone, oh, yeah, but that'd be a drill. They're obviously doing a drill. They won't do that coming down. And they did it coming down the course. And they were very good. And incredibly successful crew.
Right.
And so that's with a really big sit back. And then you get other people that are quite upright and compact.
Yeah.
But things do go around.
Yeah.
Because, you find your race, so 96, still the fastest head of the river all time. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's never been faster than that year. And yet, sure, being the fastest ever, they used to sit on 32, 33. So really low rate, but exceptionally quick. And so you get people saying, oh, yeah, but you've got to do it this way now. And, the pause, part of that is, I think, people getting more and more efficient with that back turn, and that thing about finishing a stroke and then moving to the speed of the boat. So there's all these things that'll keep popping up.
Yeah.
But then
How do you know? What do you do? Have you stayed, or you'll bring something maybe in a little bit, or is that?
For me, it's very at the school level. Yeah. I've always been a big fan of that sort of Michael Morgan, Isla Lee, single sculling sort of philosophy.
Yeah.
And
because you won 2 junior world titles, right?
One. Yeah.
95. Yep.
Yeah, and not big guys at all, So,
but that crew won a couple of titles or something. They won.
Yeah, so they would at nationals.
Yeah.
They won.
Oh, they won the nationals.
Schoolboy 4.
Right.
Schoolboy 4. Sorry, junior 4, junior 8, schoolboy 8, and undefeated throughout their season.
Yeah.
And then went to Worlds, and that's with 3 guys who, 2 of them were lightweight rowers when they left school.
Yep.
Not big.
Right.
They came out. So the year before juniors, I think collectively, the highest any of them sort of placed was 4th or 5th at the head of the river.
Yeah.
So the next year, world champions.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So you pick up stuff from going around trying to get out in speedboats with people, or finding a coach and wanting to sit down and chat to them. But with the school thing, it really is. It's kind of basic and simple, and I would argue now that we're just not as quick as we were. The 90s, early 2000s, about as fast as it was going.
Is that right? What do you put that down to?
Oh, I think getting kids to drop out of sport is a major issue. Yeah,
getting them to drop
out of sport. So rugby might do summer rugby.
Oh, right.
Which is just code for prepare for rugby rather than...
Yeah, right. So there's a drain of talent.
But it's both ways. And then rowing, people going, oh, don't do that. Go down to a club and train over. Yeah?
Yeah.
And so I just used to get crews starting later.
Right.
And so we get towed. You get towed in 4th term. Yeah. So
what's that mean?
Oh, smashed.
Right.
But by head of the river, never going faster. And if you look at school crews, invariably, as studies become more and more pressurised, as people are expecting more and more from every kid at school now, there's a lot of pulling from all different directions. Again, if you drop the workload, shorten the season, encourage them to do other things in winter or summer, but not quit. Because I'm still trying to find the program where it says, "Oh, guys, quit. I want you to quit all these things, and then we're going to win, like by you quitting."
right.
Yeah. So there was one year we
Funny
went.
how the sort of cultural thought, groupthink sort of spreads around, and and it takes a long time to change back. Probably,
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah.
So, because Joey's didn't win for 7 years, so you could go to Joey's the first time in their history where you could go in year 7 and you would not see Joey's win a footy premiership. Yeah. At the same time, they were running summer rugby. So, yeah. So
Yep.
if you say to a
Right. So you're saying,
if you take kids out of a competitive environment and then say, just go to the gym and train, or we'll just do some sprints, you end up getting kids that are quite stale by the end of a year.
Yeah.
I ended up at Joey's for 3 years, and I left after one. I wasn't going to do it. And then one thing led to another, and it was, they were asking would I come and do the 8. And I made the comment a couple of times that, no, I'm not interested, thanks. And then it was, what would it take? What would make it more, appealing? And it was sort of like, I think it was John Reading said, what if Sherlaw would come? And I said, if you get Bob, I'll do it. And so that's Bob, who finished up at Shaw in 2010, and 3 years later, after retiring, being at Shaw since 74, dragged him out at Joey's. What did he do? Took it back to being a school sport. None of the dragging kids down to the boat shed at 5 o'clock in the morning and da-da-da.
Right.
Cut the numbers down in year 8, but you grow at year 9, you grow at year 10.
Right.
So simple things again. Yeah.
Right.
Go back to, and it's this classic thing is everyone wants to chase high performance. Everyone wants to chase bigger boats, more expensive equipment, with things like where we get into the point of altitude training and altitude tents and all the sort of stuff that's there now. And you just go do less, do it better, and make it about the kid and the school, and things work. Yeah. And like I think I was saying to you when I spoke to you earlier, the boat that I've that's up at Orange now in my backyard, and I'm hanging on to it because no boat's ever gone faster at the head of the river for Riverview.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the same boat.
And you're sure about that time?
I couldn't go to a court of law, but I've seen all the numbers written out. And so Riverview's won the head of the river a couple of times.
Yes.
Since.
Yes.
But that boat at that head of the river, which was the fastest time, the coaching side of things is, everyone wants to win and be successful. But I honestly can say that I enjoy when you get the result is important.
Yeah.
But it's seeing development and it's seeing kids maybe doing something that they didn't think they could do. Even if it's not winning, it might be something else. Yeah. And it's often like that. My 92 Sydney High crew, I hold them in the highest of regard. So bow 4, no one over 70 kilos in bow 4, and we just had this amazing crew of what eventually turned out to be, surgeons. We had kids who literally, 2 brothers that looked down the harbour towards the Opera House and all that, and then 2 other brothers that, I'm pretty sure at the time they didn't have a phone on. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like one family, and we had
Right.
Yeah, so it was just this incredible thing where we had 4 brothers, and we had probably one of the smartest kids you'll ever come across. He was in there. Then another guy who's become a doctor, and you just go tiny. It was 2,400 metres back in the day. So, and I still look back on those days, and I still would stay sort of in touch with people.
Yeah.
They came 5th.
Yeah.
But it was a 5th that, for me, their results were amazing. Same thing. I've just been lucky over the years. And I had 2 years at Riverview in, I've got to get my decades right, but it must have been 16 and 17. 16 was the most amazing performance ever, right? And on the night of the head of the river, okay? So first year back at Riverview, night of the head of the river, rowing down the course at Cirque, getting ready for that, the 20 stroke sort of build across the line. Yeah, see you all tomorrow.
Yeah.
And our best rower blew out a disc in his back.
Oh, no.
So on that Friday night, they've come around to the warm-up lake to get off the water. On my way down to the warm-up lake, there's a kid there who hasn't been rowing because he hurt his back in December. So not rowing, not training.
Right.
And I've gone past and I said, oh, mate, Josh, have you got a Zooty? And he goes, not on me. I said, could you get one? So we got Josh, we walked down, we got Luke out of the boat, and Luke was in the top 8 in the GPS, so he'd been selected into the GPS 8. So he was our top rower, top erg, top sculler, top everything. Gone. It was going to be his 3rd year in the 8. So he was our number 1 rower. Friday night. So I've walked around, got the kids, said, rightio, well, I'm just going to throw, I just need people to change seats. So this Friday night, so we're just going to change a couple of seats. Josh is going to jump in and we're just going to do a lap of the lake. Tell me how it goes and then we might go outside.
Right.
So as they've pushed away from the pontoon, and this is kid who hasn't rowed since the beginning of December.
Right.
Made a call that we don't want him racing at the head of the river because we can't. It was kind of like, mate, you've hurt your back. We don't want to go and put you in a crew for the last week of the year and you hurt your back again. Sort of thing, that
right,
sort of.
Sure.
It's better off if something happens, we can call you in. But at the moment, we don't want to unsettle crews. So there's Josh. No Zooty. There's the crew. So you've got a crew there where we'd been holding it together anyway because a few injuries and da-da-da. So number 1 guy's out, throw Josh in, move a couple of seats. They go out. As they push away, I still remember it, the 3 and 4 seats, as they took that first stroke, they just went, yeah, good, nice. Yeah, so that, which is so atypical for kids to think, biggest race of the year, training for 7 months, you've lost your best guy, I'm reseating, let's see how it goes on the warm-up lake. They come back in. Do you want to go down the course? They said, yeah, it's going real well. Went down the course. So then overnight we're thinking, how do we do this? And the call was, like talking to Nuno, it was like, if we took someone out of the second 8, we're going to stuff every crew.
Right.
So we'll keep Josh in the crew, throw him in the crew. Next day, attention go bang, and it's just them and Shaw the whole way down the track. So their best result, their best performance by a country mile was taking out our best person and putting in a guy who hadn't been in a crew environment or training.
Wow.
We had him on a rehab program. Bang. And those guys there's guys who said they didn't believe the coxswain because he was saying, yep, we're on the shore, this seat, we're on that. And they literally said, we didn't believe the coxswain, but I know...
this is in the race?
Yep, head of the river day. So next day, bang, them and Shaw just trundling down the course. And people say that was the great Shaw crew of that little era.
Right.
And here's the Riverview guys losing their best guy, throwing in someone who isn't in the GPS program. Next day...
How was he fit at all?
Oh, mate, look, this is why sport's kind of weird, yeah?
Yeah.
And then there's other people who have been training since, I'm going to get straight into it, I'm going to go down to a club and train from April, May, June. I'm going to go with this club and do their camp in January, and you just go, no one's going faster. Let's just go back to how it used to be done and do it with intensity and professionalism.
Yeah.
But if you do it well, and that classic thing again, like a Sherlaw thing, is you should be able to grab any kid. If you have a squad system and you all train together, we're all rowing the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Right.
So, look, again, first time back at Riverview, should have been a disaster, second, bang. And I think it was only, it was within, it was us and Shaw, and then, yeah.
Oh, should have been a disaster. And you got second. Yeah. Is that
and not a dodgy second,
No.
a attention go, them and Shaw sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then the second year, same sort of thing happened. We lost our number 1 guy. So after the Gold Cup, before they had the river, yep. So Nobes has gone down.
Again. Wow.
Yeah, second year. So Nobes has done something silly. I think he did a backflip out of a tinny on the Parramatta River, hurt himself. So he's come back, and it's like, everyone, best behaviour. This is it now. And And so then I think he went and played touch footy and did his knee, right? So I said, no, I'm really sorry, I can't put, So we threw in a kid into the stroke seat. So we reseated, all that stuff, bang, down the track, second, all over, sure again. And so I get more and more confident of this, is that crews aren't getting faster and they don't get faster through the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So historically, the crews aren't as fast.
Right.
And throughout the season, you'll often see the crews do that. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a pecking order. And so whoever wins that first race, people tend to just sit behind them and go, well, they're the best. And,
Yeah.
And once you break that,
How do you break that though?
you've got to incentivise everything. You've got to say to someone, I don't care how tall you are, how short you are. I don't care if you've got a big erg or a small erg. Just say, we just pick the top 8 guys in sculling. And this is just something, that's a Mike Morgan, that's an Isla Lee thing. And
Can I just come in? So Isla Lee was a King's coach, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yep. Michael Morgan was at Newington. Can you tell me what they inspired you, yeah?
well, so
I mean, we're talking legendary coaches here, but what was it that's inspired you about them?
so just because Morgan, at the time when I first got into rowing, he was sort of like, he was that guy. Newington were winning all the time.
Yeah.
It was
he had schoolboy crews going in the Gold Cup against men, beating them.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely phenomenal
I'm
stuff.
pretty sure there was a year there where his crew was toweling up the AIS 8. They might have got through them in the end, but that's what I got from Morgan. Morgan would just say, all right. He went up to Isla. Isla was coaching.
So how did you get wind of? Because wasn't he quite a mystical figure? No one knew much about him.
Look,
How did you get in there and sort of? Is that what you mean? You worked out how he was operating and stuff. Is that right or not?
He was at Sydney Rowing Club, and so I'd try and listen in on stuff.
Oh, would you?
Yeah. And it was one of those things where he was happy. Sydney High bought the first Ozratec.
Right. Okay. What year?
So I'll make it up a bit. Maybe was it 90 or 91?
Oh, very early. Yeah, 91. Newington had one of those new lightweight boats. That was the first year. Yeah. So it must have been 92.
So Sydney High. So that
sorry,
was,
1990, and then sorry. Go ahead.
So basically, you had Stu Derwin, Mike Morgan, and one other guy. I can't think of his name, and they brought out Ozratec, which was Vespoli. Yep.
Right.
Sydney High bought one. Okay, so there was, John Singleton.
Yep.
Okay, so John said...
He bought one, did he? Or?
He said to his son, who was at Sydney High,
Yeah.
He goes, oh, mate, your 18th's coming up. Is there anything, what... Do you want a car or anything on it? And he goes, what about a boat? Right? And so one thing led to another. Next thing you know, they got an Ozratec. So Morgan came down and said, how can I help? He just... Because, they were new boat and everything, and how can I help? And the next thing you know, he was, oh, look...
At High?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And then
but he was at Newington?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Stu Derwin was, I can come and help. So he started coaching down at Sydney High. And they realised that you got great kids there, but you need just some program advice, some technical advice. And so he gave me pretty much all his notes. Like start notes, technique notes.
Really?
Here's what I do on a Monday, Tuesday.
Is that right?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
And so that
would have been big, right?
Yeah. And I knew of Isla Lee because he was actually at Sydney High as a teacher.
Okay.
And so whilst it wasn't, groundbreaking stuff for him at Sydney High, he got Sydney High sculling. So he went and got the sculls at Sydney High. Oh. And so Morgan used to go and train with Isla up in Queensland, and Isla's kids are all in the single scull.
Okay.
And Morgan's in the 8, and every time they did side-by-side work, they couldn't beat Isla's crew. You just couldn't get it. How come you're never in the 8, but you keep beating us? So there's a... Oh. So then Isla came down to Kings in 93. Morgan was about to do 5 on the trot. Yeah, so Newington were about... And so...
Oh, he came to... Oh, right.
Bought 24 sculls. Kings win the head of the river for the first time since 90, whatever it was, 80, whatever it was, and it was on the back of sculling again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was just this, and hard to explain, but at Sydney High, we sort of embraced it and went, let's just do it, you know. And so there was I think it was, if it was 93, 94, something like that, Sydney High came third at Nationals in the 8, and fourth at the head of the river. And then there was another time of really embracing it again, and the current head of men's coach down in the Institute, Mark Prater, was coaching the 8 at High. And so 2005, they came fourth at the head of the river and, you know, made maybe fifth at Nationals or something. And it was going back to that, it's got to be competitive, intense, and if we can get them in small boats and training all the time in that, get your nose in front. If you want to be in the crew, just get your bow ball in front. You don't have to be taller. You don't have to have a bigger...
Get your nose in front.
And as soon as you get kids that don't like losing because they like getting in front, it tends to come across to your big boats.
Yeah.
Does that make sense a bit?
Yeah. Fascinating. So you got some notes and
Gosh.
wow. So where were you coaching? So you were coaching at Shore in 95, were you? Is that right?
Yeah. So I went across in 92, and so Bob basically sacked himself. And this is what they tried to get Bob to take the 8. He said, no, we can't win the 8 if I coach the 8. So he got Gary Eubergang across. So he gets Eubergang across, they win the 8. So Bob went to the first and second 4. And when I rang him up, he goes, come across, meet up, let's see, maybe you can come and do the first and second 4.
Yeah, so you ring him up and, oh, wow.
Because he said,
okay, cool.
Because he went, we can't be successful if I'm coaching crews.
Yeah.
So he sacked himself as the 8 coach.
Right.
Then he pulled himself out in 92 as his last senior coaching crew. I got the job. And that year, so the guys from the first 4 and one guy from the second 4 all ended up 2 years later in Poland winning the first ever Junior World Championships for a men's crew. So it was, ring up Bob, get given that little opportunity and going, let's do sculling. So it was trying to do what we were doing, what I'd been watching at Newington, and I've forgotten the school where Isla was in Queensland, but... So take that, transplant it to Shore and start doing that with the 4s. And then we did it with the 8s, 2 8s at Shore. And so 95, first and second 8 win. Yeah? And that was the first time for 10 years that Shore had done the double.
Yeah, right.
And it just go back to sculling, reward sculling. And so that's we do at Joey's, reward sculling, bang, 3 years later they win. Reward sculling at Riverview, 3 years later they win.
Yeah, so Riverview wins in, tell me again, 2000 and they win it.
18, and then I think 21, 18 and 20. 20.
Was it 2018, was it? Were you part of that? Were you there?
Yeah. So I was coaching there because Nuno, it's a funny one because he rang me up.
So let's just have a look at that. That was 75 to 2018, right? That's like a 33 year gap, right?
Yep.
What do you think? How do you think that happened? How'd that come about?
Okay, so I wasn't coaching it. I don't think I was coaching at the time. I wasn't coaching at the time. So I stopped coaching at Shore when my daughter was born. Stopped coaching at Joey's when Harry was born. And so I don't think I was coaching. And Nuno rang me up, goes, do you want to come and do some coaching? And I literally was, we were going overseas for a family wedding. I said, mate, I'm going away for a couple of weeks. I'll get back in touch. And it was like, I really don't. You know what I mean? I don't want to do it.
Had you had enough or so? Or?
Oh, look, just had the 2 kids. My wife works in finance and it's big hours and lots of travel. And it's like the Riverview thing, sometimes, it's like with Joey's, I just didn't want to do it because you know how difficult it is to turn... rowing, you go backwards. Yeah? So to be successful, you can't see your opposition. Yeah?
Right.
If you're on a bike, you can sit in behind someone and watch them hurt and hit them on a hill, or you can wait for them to go for the water.
Yes.
You're in a running race and you're the runner out in front and all you can hear is noise around you. That's stress.
Yeah.
In rowing, the person out in front just watches everyone.
Yeah.
And if you're following, you can't see anything. So there's complete trust that your boat speed is going to be enough after 220 strokes to beat someone who you can't see.
Yeah.
And so it's this, yeah, and that's
Yes.
and that's the weird thing about it is it's that sport where you don't see your opposition, and it's also a crazy sport where if you get in your own little world, if you can get in your own little world inside the boat, all the noises and things, you can have races that are start and finish, and you kind of almost, wow, where did that go?
Yeah.
So part of that, it's so hard to get, so difficult to have those moments where kids will say, it was over. They were telling us to, we're winding to the line. Yeah. And so that's the sort of thing where you go, getting crews that have those moments, they're the hardest things to get. And I just found...
They talk about this rhythm, the elusive rhythm. On that, do you think your professional eye, can you see when it's can you tell by the eye?
Oh, every now and then you feel like you can.
Right.
But that's the other thing too that I've been lucky over the years. I've worked with like the top people. Yeah. So when I did a year down at the Institute of Sport, and sort of my mentor coaches, there's the 2000 Olympics. So everyone who was anyone is a who's who of Australian coaching.
Yep.
So you got Reinhold Barchi. Yeah. I had.
Did he come from Germany in like late 80s?
Yeah, but he was Romanian.
Romanian.
So he's Romanian. And
because he was part of the 86 World Champions. Is that right?
Yeah. So...
Sorry, I put you off.
No, not at all. So Reinhold was a Romanian in the Romanian rower and in the Romanian army, and he basically got himself out and got to Berlin. I think I've got this right, and then managed to get his wife out. So then he was in coaching for West Germany,
right?
And that's when he was they worked on him, Boltby and Coates and a couple of other guys, yeah. So they got him here, finally got him here. But at that time, you've got Reinhold, you had Brian Richardson, you had Paul Thompson, you had Lyle McCarthy. So they were the coaches at the Institute. And then you had all your camps going on. So you got your Noel Donaldsons are there, your Harold Yarlings are there, your Tim McLarens. So it was a pretty amazing time to be there.
Because it's a small community, right?
And it was leading up to Sydney 2000, so they'd had that big build-up. So to go out with those guys and sit in speedboats, video, sit in the team meetings, sit down and just learn so much. And then on top of that, I used to try and go overseas, and I might go and tap on the door somewhere and say, oh, look, can I come out with you? So there was a head coach in Switzerland, Marty Aitken. And I sort of said, any chance I can come to Switzerland and just, So he said, yeah, sure. So I ended up in Switzerland going out with him in the speedboat with Zeno Muller, who at the time, this is between...
Did you get yourself there or something?
Yeah. Yep. So you go there and you get to sit in a speedboat with the guy who had won at Atlanta, and he was about to get a silver in Sydney. So you go there, you get to sit in the speedboat. There was a guy was there at the time called Harry Mann, and he's just like this legendary guy. He won gold medals for New Zealand, and as a coach, and he's won gold medal for the British 8 in 2000. He passed away in 2001. Yeah, so I got to meet him. And there's just other things. I go to the UK, go out with people, and just always trying to find things.
So each time you would go to different deployments in a way, right?
Yeah.
You'd come back with some new things, yeah?
Or like I still remember when I was at Riverview, the Ralph Holtmeier, this famous German coach. So we lent him some equipment. Okay, so this is leading up to 2000. So I'll be going out in the boat with him with the German 8 leading up to Sydney.
Oh, right.
And I'm just there, you can asking a million questions. Oh, Mr. Hoff, he didn't really speak good English at all.
Right.
And I'm just badgering him about, is it pulse rates, a boat speed, do you do this? And he just went, whoa. He goes, and it's cliche, but he goes, coaching is not science. Coaching is art, right?
Right.
And I was like, hang on, I'm with the German.
Right.
I was waiting to hear, no, you've got to do these boat speeds, you've got to work at these lactates, you've got to, these are the zones. And it was, and he goes, it's an art. Coaching's an art. And I think he had the German 8, whether it was men or women, from 1988 through to a couple of Olympics ago. So it was either men or women medal at all those different Olympics, yeah? And so coming away from him was, a couple of things, because it was technically, he went, well, look, we try to row longer and harder, so which is pretty basic, yeah? Longer, harder, and coaching's not a science. And the more you get into rowing, the more people try and really complicate it.
Right.
And so I know with Paul Thompson, who's arguably in that top handful of coaches of all time. So he ran Great Britain women and lightweights, and he ran the Chinese program up until Tokyo. So he won everything. And it was like, I remember Tomo saying once, at the end of the day, as long as he's got to stop watching a megaphone and a speedboat, then he can run his program, yeah? And then all of a sudden, you've got programs where the team might be 20 athletes and you might have 20 physios, doctors, sports scientists, all this sort of stuff. So the programs have got bigger, but yeah, have they become more efficient and better? And I think that's where my take on it would be from the school thing again. Make it simple. Let them sleep more, feed them better, look after their schoolwork, and everything flows. It's kind of that simple.
Because you flipped out, we used to get up and every morning, 5 a.m. on the water at 6 or something. You just changed that right around. You just went, well, let's get out rough water and...
yeah, because that was the thing as well.
In the afternoon, I think you said, because I like to sleep in. I was like,
look.
Probably wasn't that reason, yeah.
No, so you got to row in the mornings because there's that thing about getting some good water and da-da-da. But, so again, you got Joey's very unsuccessful as a rowing head of the river, winning first 8, yeah, and Riverview as well. And they're both at their schools. And what you work out is that if everyone's always rushing to do stuff and the kids are only there, it's so easy for them to say, I've got to go up at such and such because there's a recital on, or I've got to be off the water at this time because the school buses are going at 5:15. If I'm not on the bus, I can't.
Tony O'Connor.
Yeah.
New Zealand, Irish.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So he coached the schoolboys and the New Zealand 8, right? And he said the difference really was they were just older and stronger and a bit bigger.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought. That was an interesting comment.
Yeah. So I haven't heard that, right? But that was the Tokyo 8, yeah?
Yep.
So that was one of those performances where you just go, I'd love to know what the guys were thinking midway through that race because they were probably so far into that little zone to do what they did. And they had the old guy, was he in the bow seat or whatever, like arguably one of the greatest rowers of all time, coming out of retirement, jumps into an 8 where you'd say, people might argue, it's such a big power sport and surely in the 8 you want the big guys with the big ergs. And he'd been doing cycling, trying to get to international level with cycling. So he jumps into that 8 and you think, small country with a pretty amazing pedigree of sport, and they come out and win the boat that they probably shouldn't win.
Because I was watching some of their training on. I was just doing some parent rowing.
Yeah.
And I got into it and I was watching his training tapes, and it was just poetry on water, man. It was just. I was just mesmerised. I was watching it. An hour goes by, and I'm just watching.
This whole finding a rhythm.
I was just watching. I mean, it helped that it was in New Zealand. My point being, that was what's your take on if you've got identical physical crews, an identical technical crews.
Oof.
If you've got identical technical ability, it then comes down to pure grunt. Who wants it more? Is that right?
Yeah, or like you can have someone that in a different seat adds to everyone. So it might be a seeding thing.
Right, yeah, it's complicated, isn't it?
Oh, look, there's.
How do you work out? How do you work that out? How do you work out the seeding stuff?
Look, you like to think you got little processes and whatnot, but if you do enough work where you're not just sitting in the boat you're racing in, there'll be times where I won't sit in the 8. We'll either be in singles or in 4s. Because if I'm in 4s, I've got 2 strokes. If I'm in 4s, I've got 2 bowmen. If I'm in 4s, I've got 2 3 seats that could be 7 seats.
Okay.
Yep. And so if I'm constantly chopping, and it's just part of training, it's not you're against him. It's like, let's just go out. Okay, you guys swap, you guys swap, you guys swap. So it's competitive, and you're always finding someone who you may not even realise. Oh mate, can you jump on the other side today? And you go, oh yeah.
And when you say, oh yeah, what do you notice? What happens?
If it makes a boat, like seemingly you find one kid and it might be, you just start to say, look, whenever we throw him in a boat, it goes better with him in that 3 seat or goes better. Yeah. And so if you do enough side-by-side incidental training, so that if they're in a single, you're always looking to see who likes getting in front. You're doing sweep but not sitting in the 8, sit in 4s and whatnot. And you start to work out who handles things better, who doesn't, all that sort of stuff.
Efficiencies and things, yeah.
Yeah. But again, when it works, it's great. We reselect the 8 with a week or 2 to go, a couple of weeks maybe, and everyone knows it, right?
Reselect it, as in re-racing?
Up to Penrith.
Right.
First 8, you're in.
Right.
So.
That's different.
Well, no, but the whole thing is right. If you went back to Riverviews...
Is that a incentive to keep people on their toes kind of thing?
No, because my take is start later, let country kids not come to camps if they can't come because they've been, they're at school.
Right, sure.
But we will have a camp, 3 weeks out, and so you might have a race on the Saturday morning, but we'll be selecting Friday night. So you might go up there, race them off, go, there's the 8.
Right.
Okay, so then you've got to go, now we've got to seed it, and then we've got 2 weeks to go. And it's not about being cutthroat. It's about, this is my take on it anyway, is you lose that many country kids, you lose that many hard, physically tough kids, because now it's, year 8 have got a camp, 2 camps, year 9 do a couple of camps, and you go, but the boarders need to go home. So if you kind of say, yeah, we get serious at January camp, but we'll select it, 3 weeks out, whatever it might be, 3 weeks, 2 weeks out. And it gives every country kid the option to be able to go home for their 6 weeks or whatever it is, but know that they've now got another 6 weeks before you might pick it. So they get January camp and then da-da-da. So if everyone knows that, and that everyone respects that we've got to put a first 8 label and a second 8 label, but we're just 2 8s, okay? And it doesn't, and so whatever happens, it's the second 8's going to push the 8 to a win, first 8's going to drag the second 8 to a win, and we might all end up in seats that we want, don't want, whatever. But once you get a program going where everyone just is invested, if that's the right word, or they trust it, then you start to get performance because kids know they're not going to get X-factored. But he's too short, or look, he doesn't look right. But once you give that, the great American dream, just you do it, you're in, so.
Meritocracy. Speedotocracy.
But that's it, isn't it? Reward effort, and don't, you just got to take the bullet sometimes, so when Dan Noble, Nobes, Riverview
There was
Nobes,
a Dan Noble.
Yeah, back in 95. Went to Scots, yeah. But Noble. Anyway, Zach. So when he did the out of the boat, cut himself on oysters, then did his knee, playing touch footy, the guy who'd been stroking the 8 all year, I had to drop him to the second 8 because he came 9th in the sculling.
Wow. Right. So tell me about that. You think you've got a great rower. You know he's a great rower.
Stroke of the 8.
Yeah.
Yep.
What happens there?
He came 9th.
What happens?
Put him in the second 8.
Wow.
And then, so you like people think this is easy, right? But I'm talking, you're sitting...
Because he probably had a bad day.
right? So people think it's easy, but as a coach, it's soul destroying when you've got to sit down a kid who's one of the best kids you'll come across, right? And then you've got to sit him down in a Friday night before the last circ regatta and just say, oh, look, Mac, this is how it's going to be. But I said, I've been doing this for a while now, mate. The last 2 to 3 weeks, there's going to be injury, illness, or misadventure. Something's going to happen. Just can you show me in the next couple of days that you want that seat back and da da da. And so then Zach went and played touch footy. Mac comes up, strokes the 8 to second place, doing this with Shaw down the track. So again, if everyone wants it perfect all the time, they want the perfect boat, they want the perfect this, the perfect that. It's like it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be the opposite. To a real fault, I've found over time that if I can just explain it from day one, here's the program, here's how we're going to select it. But on this date, the top 8 guys across the line are going to be in. And over the years, the number of times the kid that's missed out ends up in the boat and just performance of their life. And I'm not doing it so a kid misses out and then comes back in. I'm doing it because if they all can trust the program and the process and they buy in, and then once you get the kids, the bum taps and back slaps and the older kids driving it, then you don't have to be around the last couple of weeks. I know that's...
Yeah.
But that thing...
No, that's really good. That's really good coaching, though, in my opinion. If you can do that, you've done a really good job.
And that's the ultimate as a coach, this idea of sitting down with the kids early on and saying, you make me redundant and you'll be successful.
On that, Joey's, we know, incredible rugby school, but they had a coach, their brother Anthony Boyd, it's like early 90s, I think, and they would just go and do their own warm-up, and they would just do it. The coach wasn't there. Yeah. And I remember just going, they are that good that they can just...
And if you get that point where you're not asking kids to do stuff, they've done it. We stopped doing I've just stopped doing ergs, 2K ergs, right?
Right. What do you mean by that?
I just found it so frustrating.
You stopped testing on those,
do different tests.
Different tests,
okay. But not...
So tell me about that. Why did you do that?
Look, everywhere you go, every shed wants to, rugby's finished on that day, erg on Monday morning, or erg on Monday afternoon. And the only people that are excited by that are the coaches. Yeah.
Is that right?
There's not one kid that says, let's go and do a 2,000 erg because it's such an old man approach to everything. If it's harder and we do more, we win.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's kind of like the opposite. Yeah.
Right.
So, we just stopped doing ergs.
Right.
I do a lot of step rates, so it could be.
A lot of which one? Sorry.
Just step rates.
Okay.
You go, all right. We're going to go 16, 18, 20, 22, 7-minute erg. So everyone goes a certain amount of metres, and then you can do that any day of the week. Let's go and do our 16, 18, 20, 22. How many metres? And they keep seeing themselves going further and further all the time. You put on a 2K erg.
Go further and further.
Oh, yeah, put a 2K erg on, blast it all out. Everyone's got a blood on the water and, vomiting and all that. And you just go, no one's going faster. Everyone hates it. Maybe 1 or 2 kids go, yeah. And it's like, what do we get? Nothing.
Right.
Yeah, so, look, that was the other thing too, is the number of times people at the national level go, what are their ergs? If they can get this erg, we'll invite them. And you just go, guys, you're killing it. We're killing the sport because
ergs don't translate to the water, Michael, do they? Well,
they translate to it's a similar movement, all those sort of things, but it really is, it's not the sensation of water. It's the sort of thing where you're basically going, we want incredibly skillful people who can operate in an unstable environment with other people. Let's whack them on a stationary machine and see who can throw their heads around as much, rip and tear, and let's reward that. Now, again, if you get more...
on this, I know exactly what you're saying, but some of my fondest memories are those.
Are
those hard things that you did do? Looking back on it and going, that was kind of crazy, but
get them through the door.
Get them through the door. Fair enough.
Get them through the door, and it's going to be hard.
And have a bigger group, and it's more enjoyable. I get it. Yeah.
And so once you start getting big numbers, everything flows on, and I think that's with sport in general. If you really think like if it wasn't for some private schools, rowing wouldn't exist, right?
Is that right?
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
And so if you
But don't you think it's an incredible sport? It is an incredible
I think sport's incredible. Yeah, sport's incredible.
Sport's incredible.
And I think that a lot of the stuff in rowing that's great are putting speedboats together in and out of the water, doing things that you don't want to do,
Putting speedboats together?
This, like today, where you don't have those things where there's a really heavy engine, there's the petrol tank. Can we organise getting all that together down on the water? We want to get our boat out. We're going to do it. You're going to have blisters. You're going to have sore back, and this is going to be arduous. But you keep rocking up, and you keep turning up, and over time you build momentum, and over time the kids start driving each other, and that's what's great. Yeah,
Michael, how long does it? That's good. How long does it take generally to get a crew from into something that you like to watch? You know what I mean? Like they're rowing well. How long does it take?
It's different everywhere. Like it's different at different levels as well.
Yeah, different levels. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just, in the world that I've been in most, which is that sort of school world, it's like, you say it's a great sport. So I did a few years at Loretto Kirribilli, and I used to say, if rowing's that good for boys, it's that good for the girls.
Yeah, right.
And to watch the growth, to watch the development, to watch the girls go from coming in on whatever the day is and and then head of the river is just amazing. And so I've stayed in touch with so many of the people from Kirribilli. We had our 20
Kirribilli girls are great. Like they've really got a good attitude.
Yeah.
So they. It's a good school, isn't it?
Yeah. And they sort of bought into rowing. And it's, again, sport done well is great. And I think
sport done well is great.
Yeah. And where it's not just about...
Because, sorry to cut you off, the Boys in the Boat, the book, they talk about, a lot of oarsmen will tell you that they were taught more from a rowing shell than they were in the classroom, And
it's parts of it, yeah.
What do you think of that comment?
Oh, look, I think that I do find that it's quite amazing that the lessons learnt in sport, and because you're doing it where there are absolutely no guarantees, you're not going to make a cent out of it.
Glory goes to very few.
It's just hard work. Mm-hmm. And so once you start getting kids who, I've stopped going to assemblies because I'm just sick of hearing, the educational executive talking about grit, determination, resilience, all that stuff, because it's kind of like, well, having leadership meetings on a retreat is not the same as getting, your hands dirty.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like you talk about a well-rounded education. Part of that to me is kids being in circumstances that they're not comfortable with or don't know. Yeah.
Yep.
And whether that's going away on a proper camp, like they talk about immersions or retreats or whatever. But a lot of that's gone in terms of the hard graft.
Yep. Right.
Yep.
Do they still go to Canberra?
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of an education now, everything's bigger and shinier and newer. And I think sometimes it needs to be a bit rusty and not perfect, and then the kids find ways to make it work. Yeah. So there's...
explain.
Well, you can only spend so much so that it becomes aspirational. It's like, have you seen the new boat shed at Newington? Or have you seen the new weights room here and there? It's like, yeah, but, you get really good results out of kids finding ways. Find a way.
Right.
So down at Riverview, we set the weights room up down at the boat shed.
Right.
Okay, so you've got a multi-million-dollar big facility, Gartland Centre. Yeah, but we wanted to be able to run it when the kids were available, not when they say, rowing, it's available to you from 6 o'clock on a Monday, Wednesday, whatever morning. It's like, but why? We're like, can't we work out? So if you take out the complication and you try and make it simple, and you go back to the old Mike Morgan weights room at Newington, 2 bench pull, 2 bench press, 2 back extensions, 2 chin-up bars. And then
What did they do there? What are you saying?
Real simple stuff.
Simple, yeah.
Stuff that kids can get on and say, oh, I'm that much stronger, or I'm doing that many more of these. And it's really simple. Very, very basic, very simple. Kids come in, kids go out.
What was he like as a bloke?
Don't know him very well at all. No, don't know him at all. But
I think to me he was quite a mystical figure. Like you didn't know much about him, and it was almost added to their mystique.
Yeah. So I don't know him very well. I just know that over time there were things that I picked up off him that I greatly admire, and same Isla Lee, Bob Shell was the godfather of schoolboy rowing, and you just pick it up. And I keep going back to if you still make it about a kid, if you make it about the kid and make it about part of their school education, and then everything tends to flow from that. No, but so that's Morgan. I'm trying to think about it now. When they were going to do the 5 on the trot, and Isla came down to Kings. And
the 7 seat in the Newington crew in '93, he
blacked out.
Yeah. So they were about they were 3/4 of a length from memory in front of Kings. Right?
Even more.
Yeah. They were a long way in front.
Yeah, they were going to
but it was an interesting time because, like you say, because then it was '94 went back to sort of it changed. It changed. There was a changing of the guard there. Yeah.
So look, it's.
Sorry, you were saying,
I think sport's really important and sport done well. And that doesn't mean shiny, more expensive. I mean, it's challenging. It's not perfect. You don't need the best of everything, It's and you look at it now out at Kinross, they got, I think, 350 girls in the whole school and can go to nationals and win the head of the river, with crews made up of years 12, 11, year 10 to get a crew together. And that's out of 350 girls in the whole school. So, you got your Pimbles and whatnot, thousands, little tiny country school. They've got, if there's a lot of water, they can go almost 2,000 metres.
Right,
So often they've never gone in a straight line until they've gone to Cirque.
Yeah.
They have 2 toilets.
Right.
Sitting
right.
So it's like they've got next to nothing, and yet they're arguably one of the best schoolgirl programs. And you just go, what have they got? Hard work, simple. Go away from the pretending it's a high performance sport.
Ever wonder what it takes to coach a crew to their first regatta win in over 100 years? Michael Doyle shares that incredible story and more. What do you think about rowing shells at the moment? Who's making the best boats?
All right, because I'm a cranky.
Because you like that, don't you? You love that part of it.
Oh, look,
how important's the boat? Sorry.
So, when Joey's won for the first time since 74 or 5 or whatever, they were in a Kiwi boat. So,
what year are we talking?
15.
Right, wow.
Right, so the boat that you rode in, that was a Kiwi boat, so essentially cheaper than all the others.
That was a Kiwi boat, was it?
Yeah. So you got a Kiwi boat there, and
what was the name of it? What sort of?
Oh, the Ramsays. It's Kerrs.
Kerrs. So they're Kiwi boats.
Kiwi International Regatta skiffs. I think they were originally rowing skiffs. Sorry.
So you're saying Joey's had one of those, are you?
Yep, in 2015. So they won in that. So cheap boat from New Zealand.
Cheap boat.
There's nothing
Good
cheap.
boat though. You mean?
It won. Yeah. And then 28.
Why did you like those boats?
Because they were rock solid. They last forever, and they're basically rip off shapes. Like everyone, essentially, boat builders rip off a shape.
Yeah.
They make it look different.
Rip off of an empacker or something?
Yeah. Okay, so the Ramsays is the Kerrs 8s. There used to be, you could get a West German shape, which was an empacker, or an East German shape, which was the BBG boat.
Right.
So the fastest boat ever for shore, Kerrs 8. Fastest boat ever for Riverview, Kerrs 8.
Wow.
When I went back to Riverview, we started getting the Kerrs boats.
So were you at Joey's in 2015?
No, I left.
No, you'd left.
I left in 14.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So went back to Riverview and we went Kerrs again, but they're called Laszlo now. So Guy bought them out. So they went into Kerrs.
Okay.
And so you kind of go, you can go and spend $80,000 on a boat,
Yeah.
or not quite half, but you can get a boat from New Zealand, getting close to half, and for some reason, unsuccessful programs are winning in them. So is it about the boat? And the number of times people go, oh, we need a new boat.
Unsuccessful programs are winning in them.
Joey's didn't win from 74 or 5.
Yeah.
They won in a cheap Kiwi boat. Riverview hadn't won since 75. They won in a cheap Kiwi boat.
Yeah.
And the fastest shore's ever gone, Kerr's boats.
Right.
So you see what I'm saying?
Fastest
it's
shore's
like
ever
people
gone,
can chase a product or an oar, or they can get more,
So what you're saying, though, is
if you've got 8 oars,
makes a difference.
If you've got 8 oars and you've got a boat that is well made and it's stiff or whatever you might be looking for.
Yeah.
It's not about how many boats you got. It's not about how many oars you've got. Again, it's not about that sort of powder puffing everything and making it perfect. You tend to win out of a bit of adversity, and you tend to find that if kids get used to overcoming things going wrong, like you're not rowing, it's the night at the head of the river, throw the guy in that hasn't been rowing, and they just go, yeah, bang, we've got a job to do, let's go out and do it. Or it's like, oh, the boat's not perfect. Or hang on, they've got new telemetry in their boat. How can we beat them? Because they've got a $20,000 biomech feedback. And you see, if you keep paring it back for the kids and you make their time precious, you just say, look, they're coming down here. Their number one priority is their schoolwork and their, getting the HSC and the best possible result. And we're going to be part of that. But we're also going to provide a sport that is going to challenge them, so that it's not all about, everything being perfect. Now, I know that, I don't know if that sounds how it sounds, but you'll find you get amazed all the time because people say, oh, kids today aren't as tough, or they're not as this, or it's like, they are, but you've got to put them in an environment where they then start to work out that they're much more capable than they probably think.
Michael, a big word these days is like, where they mentally sort of bring something about. What's it called?
In terms of some sort of mental rehearsal or visualization.
Yeah. There's a name for it. Manifestation. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the it word of now. But you were an early adopter of that. What's the mental side of rowing? How important is addressing that?
So we used to do things like the dry rows.
Yeah. So what's the principle behind that? Where did you get that from?
Oh, Morgan.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
How did you get that from him, though?
God knows.
I reckon that's a trade secret.
It's more. I mean, lots of people do these things.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, it was never ever just okay. It's part of it could be visualization. Part of it's race rehearsal. Mm-hmm. Part of it's that you can't always do one race after another. So part of the experience is, okay, on a Friday night
you can't always do one race after another. Yeah, you mean physically, you mean? Yeah.
But you can sit there and get everyone in and work through different race scenarios. The coxswain takes it. So rather than just a coxswain might have a race every second week, if you're doing some dry rowing or row throughs, swing throughs, the coxswain is getting in the boat. And when you get it really good...
Is that something you... carried with you? Do you still do it, sort of thing?
I've tried more and more to do it a little bit more in the boat.
Right.
Because, again, it's always, you're trying to find a way to not take time. Because time is just precious now. Because it's the expectations.
Not take time. Yeah, okay.
So sometimes you might say, you might do it in the boat, on the water, just keep walking them through scenarios as they're training and rowing along, or how we want to call it. But so for me, it's like working out on this date is our performance day. We're 7 months away, but you're working on that day from the first day, and that doesn't mean hard. And it's about everything's got to be relevant. Like, why do we do that 7 months away? You make it relevant, and you do lots of little mental run-throughs.
Yep.
And I know this sounds a little bit sort of, but
yep.
When you're coaching, I really like to try and use noise in the boat. So noise for rhythm, timing, tempo.
What was the one you used to do through the megaphone?
Oh,
what is it? Do it again.
That sort of...
Chew it in the microphone.
Okay, but that whole thing about being
Yeah,
able
no,
to pick up,
it's important. It's important.
So it's that, and then blow away the tension, and so you have that kind of being able to pick the speed or pick up the finish line.
Because with the rowing stroke, you're saying that's the catch, right? And then
let it go.
Let it go, yeah.
And then
because on that, James Tompkins was talking about technique, and I thought this was fascinating because there was a German coach that came out in the 89. He said they changed their whole rowing technique because they would go out. What they were doing was they would go out, catch, like smack it into catch, and then wrench it, But he was saying, this German coach said, look, just be more gentle at the catch, and then let it go for a couple of feet. And then really haul on it, and he goes, that changed the whole way that they rode, which I thought was fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's been all these little breakthroughs in a way because you're a long way away in Australia, but it could have been.
And it reminded me of your noise, is what I'm trying to say.
So
do you know what I mean? Do you think that's what you're getting at?
If you can get rhythm out of noise,
right?
Because the whole thing about a race, say there's an exceptional amount of pain involved and the lactates and everything. If you get yourself
After
into
about
a
30
rhythm,
strokes.
But that's it. If you can find a rhythm of noise or whatever it might be,
right,
and you get absorbed in that, at 5 strokes there's 50 metres.
Yes.
And so, you see a lot of race plans and it's 10 of these, 10 of that, then we're going to do this and that. And it's like, well, what if we just do things more efficiently, but I want you to listen to 3 of them. Then we're going to move to something else, and then you're going to feel something for a few finish, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
If someone gets absorbed in a noise or a feeling or a sensation, they're not thinking, shit, oh, where are they? Oh, it's hurting, or harder, So if you start to become more efficient with your noises or your movements, and I think that's it. Is that it's almost like little affirmations being played over again in your mind.
Yeah.
And so once they've done it for months and months and months, you're really, really happy if it works once. Yeah, so do you know what I mean? You're working so that it's a tension go, shit, we're about to move into the last 250. And that's when a coxswain has done an amazing job, where you become so absorbed in your boat, in your lane, in your noise, in your rhythm, if you've got a plan, how closely have you followed that plan?
On plans, strategy, how important is that? Race strategy.
Geez. It's so.
Because don't you think that's like, to me, looking at it from a distance, I just think it reminds me of the New Zealand crew, coached by Tony O'Connor, because he said they were rowing through. I think one of the best crews at the time was Britain, I think. They were rowing through them at a lower rate. Yeah. And it was like...
But that's it. I think that's the thing where you go, every now and then you'll just watch guts. People can win things with guts. But that's not... I don't think you get excited by that as a coach.
Right.
Okay, we're better because we rip hard and whatnot. Great, you win. But when you have
What excites you?
The performance where you don't even think about anyone else in the race, where the crew is so absorbed in their little things and all the little things that they've played with, different seats wanting to focus on a certain thing, or a pair wanting to deliver something in the race that could be whatever that might be. And just the fact that it's not like a footy season where you get a chance to play on a Saturday and get 2 points or not get 2 points. Another week in rowing you can come last for 7 months. Yeah. And the other crews might have one spot up, one spot down, So my take on it was kind of like, I only want to get my crew in front by a bow ball on one day. Yeah. And if the bow ball is in front on the last stroke, that's the best season you'll ever have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like Melbourne Cup on Tuesday. Who gives a rat's about what happened through a season? Because the Melbourne Cup is a once-off, slightly different. Everything's a bit different. 90,000 people screaming at animals. And it's a long race and all these different things that come into play. And I think if you can get your best performance on the big stage, and you can get it by the last stroke with your bow ball hitting the finish line, that's perfect.
Do you like to watch your crews race?
I don't know that I ever really like, because I'm one of those people, if I was mic'd up, I'd be arrested. I mean that nicely. No, you're in time, because you sit there and you sometimes go, oh, yes, which, it's just one of those things.
So you feel like the 10th member of the crew, right?
A little bit, because there's that thing again, it's so easy to say you want to be redundant. It's another thing to make it happen. And so when you get to that point where you want the coxswain to just be the king, where he, your coxswain's kind of, yeah, we're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And you've got that relationship with the kid that you've been working all that time. So you've got the littlest guy in the crew telling the biggest people in the world how to do it, when they're going to do it, and having the respect of the crew. But also having that... So my last two crews I've had coaching were the first and second four at shore.
Yep.
So the second four only came together with a few weeks to go. They'd been a funny crew, things had gone wrong, we'd had injury, illness, misadventure. Rock up to the head of the river, they would have won the first four, right? So their time would have beaten Newington in the first four.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
So I keep going back to the same things. If everyone has a bit of a, on this day in 6 months' time, this is what we're going to do, and now we're going to do it by following these little steps, and you work on, people talk about a mantra or whatever, or like part of that, getting that into your rowing, where everything else doesn't exist, and you become quite absorbed, by just doing stuff.
In the zone or...
And it's just, but you can't, it's just not luck. You just hope that it comes together. So so went to the UK. One thing led to another. Go up to Cambridge, and I was staying in a place with some of the girls, and the Madam President was Jo Pascal. So she's an Australian girl from Western Australia. She's now head of Cambridge Rowing, and women's boat club. So I was up there for 2 weeks. They needed someone to help out for a couple of weeks. Next thing you know, they say, "Well, do you want to look after the blue boat?" And I was like, "Yeah," but like I'm living down at Henley. They train at Ely. It's a big thing, right?
Right.
But so anyway, let's do it. One of the best things I've ever done, right? You go to Ely, the men's shed, everything that opens and shuts. Every boat, there's two of everything for everyone. Yeah. Women's shed, little tacked onto the side of a shed kind of thing with 3 boats.
Yeah.
We had to wait for the guys because the men get out first, and if they wanted to take their time, they took their time. Men went that way, because it was a straight man-made canal, so high-sided walls, beautiful conditions. Women went that way. So you had to wait, and then you had to go that way. And it was like, really? And I'd say, should I just go and have a chat? And they go, don't, leave it, right?
Traditions, English and traditions.
Yeah, and so the girls' college in Cambridge is called Newham College. So the college is this, a hallway with buildings coming off perpendicular. This is my recollection.
Yep.
So the whole logic was women won't last. So this building that we're designing for the women, if you were then to take this hallway, you could then subdivide these plots and we can do something with them all later on because women won't last. And originally the women would do almost like a dressage. It wasn't racing, it was, who looked better.
Yeah, right.
So now it's men and women, same race day, same funding, same support. 20 years ago, no. Women's way, men's way, equipment, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, right.
So, as it turns out, 2001 you had flooding, then you had foot and mouth. So you couldn't train anywhere. It was really... So ended up, the women's races were at Nottingham.
Right.
Okay. So, again, I'd been to Nottingham a few times for regattas and things. I was going, conditions are going to be this. It's going to be rough, horrible. So you train by yourself essentially because you're at Ely, no one else to train with. You train over winter. Go to Nottingham for the race. So completely different to where it was meant to be held at. Completely different conditions because you go off a river to a buoyed course. And I've got the photo of the finish line where they beat Oxford on the final stroke of the race. So at one stage, this is match racing, yeah, Oxford, Cambridge. So we're clear water down over 2,000 metres, and then got them on the surge of the bow. And I got the video and the coxswain's dictaphone.
Yeah.
And they hit the finish line, and she's convinced them they've won during that last 250. And then you're just hearing all this flopping around, and they go, "Did we get it? Did we get it?" And she just goes, "I don't fucking know." Yeah, but she she didn't, she just kept following the plan. She went through the whole process. I can still show it to people and go, well, here's the race, attention, go, dumped, all over. There's no way they can win from here. I remember sitting in the bus just going, oh dear, oh, not good. And then bang, smallest winning margin.
Wow.
Yeah. And so again, they become so absorbed in a plan, then the process, and then executing it so well that they never even looked to see if they'd won. Like last stroke, flopping around, and I still find that's amazing. In sport.
Yes.
And it's not go harder or toughen up or how do you get that? How do you get trust? Because that's rowing, is going backwards. No one actually knows who's putting in. How do you build trust?
Exactly. That is an interesting one. Look, just on that a little bit.
There's an element to, once people start buying in, that it's okay, we've got to name an 8, we've got to name a second 8, we've got to do this and that. But if you start to build this thing about you just want to be part of it, and if everyone wants to be part of it, and we're all going to
just want to be part of it.
And no, but also be part of something that's probably bigger and better than you thought it might be.
Right.
And I really enjoy, the school programs where that bottom crew will get a medal at Gold Cup or something. That thing where it'll be the biggest day of the year. Just absolutely, everyone goes nuts. Or the coxswain that's come in and he's the most timid, almost scared kind of kid. Yeah. Someone says, come down the boat shed, mate, you're tiny, we need you. And then all of a sudden he's strutting around the shed in his bloody singlet telling people what to do. So it's like there's all these good... But you know what I mean? And I
talk to me about the Gold Cup. You win the Gold Cup, right? First time, the school has never won the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
So you win it.
No, I didn't. This is the thing, right? No, this is the other thing too, is that with a performance, a really good performance is never owned by a person. Like you... Okay, sure,
but you're in charge of that crew and they'd never won that regatta ever before.
But
that's huge, right?
You got to have... Okay, so my last 4 years at Riverview, we never made the final of the schoolboy 8.
You what, sorry?
Never won the final of the schoolboy 8.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
No, never made the final.
Right.
So, because what I worked out was that...
What, but isn't it all 8 across the river now? The lake?
No, sorry, at Gold Cup.
Okay.
So originally...
Yeah.
It was like, if you win the head of the river, that's great, but if you could win the Gold Cup, right?
Yeah.
And so if you keep trying to win the Gold Cup, you tend to not go well in the head of the river. Well, that was kind of my vibe.
Yeah.
Vibe. I think kids say that these days. But my thing was like, you had Nuno in the stroke seat, and you had
He was an Olympic rower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got a guy there who was quite, special, talented, but tough. Really tough sort of kid. With him, early on, probably even 97, I said to. I'm pretty sure Tim Dolphin, so he's coach for Switzerland at the Olympics, wonderful Sydney High old boy, coaches down in Melbourne.
Yeah, right.
And I said, just watch Nuno, watch this kid, he'll stroke a quarter and 8 or something. Like he's just, had him for 2 years at Riverview. And that's what he is. He makes crews better because...
Very smooth rower, isn't he? Just metronomic.
Yeah, but he's also he knows how to empty the tank as well. He knows how to really push himself. No, we used to do back when Harold Yarling was first running things, right?
Yeah.
7-minute bench pull test, 7-minute this test. So 7-minute bench pull test.
Harold Yarling was running. What was he running?
So he was Swiss head rowing coach for New South Wales.
Right.
And he'd come from the East German program, but he used to do a 7-minute bench pull test, and it was like, say you did a max of, you halve it, then you've got to stick on stroke rate 30 for 7 minutes.
Right.
So it's really hard, horribly hard, right? There was a time where Nuno went through 7 minutes and kept going. And it's like, stop, mate, stop, and there'd be snot and drill. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And there's just that was, again, when you lose borders, you lose those country kids.
Yeah, those Warren, the Western Plains.
Yeah. So when they won the 4 in Tokyo, you had one guy from a tiny little town in South Australia, one guy from Dungog, and one guy from Warren.
Right.
So you got 3 guys coming from towns where there were a few thousand people.
Yeah.
Right. So 3 kids and one guy from
Feel
North
tough
Turramurra.
out there.
But it's like, why do we get the best people from regional and country towns? And it keeps happening. Whether it's, your guys coming from Wagga Wagga and doing well in cricket, or how would we be going if we didn't have Fiji, Tonga and Samoa providing us with rugby players?
Yeah.
So you're talking about countries with 200,000 people.
Yeah.
And even after they've had their eyes picked out by New Zealand and Australia, they can still rock up and challenge us. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So I keep going again. If every time I hear that school sports high performance, you go, well, if it's so high performance, how come we've got to keep buying kids from Tonga, Samoa? Do you know what I mean? And that's why I keep going. If we keep getting the kids from the country and they keep showing us up, why wouldn't we be embracing that?
Michael, can I ask you, what do you think your best memory... If you had to choose one, what do you reckon your best memory is? If you had to choose one, what's your proudest moment? Sticks out to you? What do you think?
There's thousands of things that are just really good. Like so many.
I know I'm asking for one though.
Yeah, things that where I go.
It's like saying, what's my best? It's not about best, but what would? It's like saying what's better, Paris or London. They're just different. I get it.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick something, what would it be?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of things, right? So, okay, in a way, Gold Cup's great, but
was it great?
Yeah, it's good at that time and in those moments and whatnot. But that was great. That's one thing that's good. I remember when I went to Shore.
Have they won it ever since the Gold Cup?
No. So it's still.
Well, it's one of those. It's just a hard race to win, isn't it?
It is. It's tricky, and it's who's going to rock up on the day, who gets their heat, what lane do you get?
Tricky, yeah.
What's the tide doing?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I cut you off. What were you?
No. So there's lots of things. I had a couple of races one or two races at Kirribilli where you just went, that was amazing.
Right.
There's 2009. So I had 3 second eights on the trot at Shore.
Yeah.
And so the last 2 of them on time would have won the first 8. Wow. So if Shore,
what year are we talking there?
08 and 09.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So on time, if Shore didn't have a first 8, the second 8 would have won it on time.
Right.
Okay. So the second year of that, so the crew that 2009, they beat the winning Head of the River time. Okay, right. So if they'd been, and it's things, different conditions, all those sort of, yeah. But that was special because those guys, they won by so far, it was ridiculous, right? And when that happens, so how did they do it? I think they did a 5:53 or something up at Cirque one day as a second 8. So that wins you the Head of the River.
Wow.
8 times out of... Yeah. So Riverview 2016, losing your best guy on the night.
Yeah. That's incredible to me.
To then come pumping down the course, everyone else is out of picture.
Yeah.
And we've thrown in, Josh gets thrown in.
And he comes second in that one, right? Yeah. But you just love that. You love that situation. Yeah.
Lots of things, winning the first 4 of 1,000. Something that was
the first 4 what?
At Shore, my first year at Shore, we won the 4.
Yeah.
That was amazing because they were all out of year 9 into 10, so they're all young.
Oh, right, very young, right.
Yeah.
To win the first 4, that's good.
So that was
technical
but it's just
mastery,
the things,
right?
Oh, just gutsy little buggers,
yeah.
But lots of things, and sometimes it's not what you expect. It's it's not necessarily the wins that you have those special kind of results.
Sure.
And training too, mate. Like some of the training sessions you have, like traditionally, I tend to punt. Like I've become more into the weekend before the Head of the River, just the biggest, hardest, longest, most ball-tearing session of the year, 7 days out. And it's like, you wouldn't do that at a club, you wouldn't do it, but I've just found over time that the week out, I've gone, 27, 28K in one session where it's all mystery pieces.
You're saying this is a good thing? Is that right? Yeah.
Don't know why, but mystery pieces. So you might go
mystery
out.
Pieces.
I've taken Joey's cruise up through Silverwater and back to, the Saturday morning 1 week out, and it's go and never tell them how many strokes. Never. And by the time they get back to the boat shed, and then you make them go past the boat shed. So it's the longest row of the year, and they think they're going in. You just go again, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Wow.
And it's amazing. And then they come out and have their best ever result 7 days later.
Wow.
Yeah, doesn't make sense, right?
So hang on, you'll take them on an incredibly
hardest row,
right?
Longest row, hardest row, 7
right.
days out.
Right.
And that's if you can.
And why 7 days out? They need.
Oh, that last week, you're signing off. You pack your bag, you pack the boat away because you probably, you might not row until Tuesday or something. You might go up to Cirque on the Thursday or whatever it might be. So it's kind of like hardest, toughest, mentally demanding because I'm never telling you when to stop. You go,
mentally
go.
demand, yeah.
And then all of a sudden the little bastards will start screaming at each other and they'll hit rates they've never hit. The coxswain will be saying, can't understand it, our boat speed's just phenomenal. And you're saying, well, this doesn't make sense. We've been going for 27 Ks, what's going on? And they suddenly realise that they are capable of so much more than they ever possibly imagined.
No. So where are you at now? Do you want to coach again?
No,
you're done. You're done.
Done.
Yeah.
But I was going to say,
yeah.
And I'd forgotten how actually it's a great story, but the kid just passed away a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So first year at Joey's, and you ask the kids to support what you're doing. So we're not going to be in the 8, we're going to scull. We're going to scull. And so Peter Ritter hurt his back, and so the whole week of the head of the river, we couldn't row the 8. And we didn't know if Pete was going to come back in, he'd been the stroke. So we lost our stroke. And I think it was either the Thursday or the Friday, we went out for a paddle to see if he'd be able to come down the track, and we threw him in the 2-seat. And so, head of the river day, where we made the call, say, Pete, you're in the 2-seat, you're in, mate, So he'd just been doing physio because he'd hurt his back. He actually was seat racing to try and make the 8. So stroke of the second 8, trying to make the 8, hurt his back. So we're in the single sculls, we're just sculling up and down, no time in the 8. And then it was like, Pete, we'll go out and we'll do some 4s, so just to see if he's okay. And then we jumped in the 8 on the Friday, we're going. This is the crew racing. Next morning, never even given Shaw trouble all year, and there they were, fanging down the course with this tiny margin between them and Shaw. Best result of the year, hadn't rowed the 8, and threw the kid in who was our stroke, so then put him into 2, and another kid might have even had to change. Something happened, so it was like everything changed. Best result.
Yeah.
And that the more you do it with the kids, it's more about a little breakthrough and an understanding that it doesn't matter what they throw at you on these last few weeks. If we've done these things, this is what's going to happen on the day, and it's amazing. Yeah. So Peter was, you might have even heard, he was a helicopter pilot. So he's been over in Western Australia and incredibly successful, talented guy, where they round up all the livestock. Yeah. So he and a mate took off and they hit each other and so they were both killed. So that's very recent. So yeah, that was Pete Ritter, who was the guy who literally we didn't even think he'd be there on the day, but we were hoping didn't row the 8 the week of the head of the river. Yeah. And we get our best race, best result. That's why I keep going. I know it's boring and I'm a broken record, but, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Michael, 2 things for someone who's not many rowing coaches, I imagine, like a pretty small community, I guess, but what would your advice be to a younger coach? A couple of things. Just get out with lots of people. Even if you don't agree or you're trying to work it out, ask that classic thing of ask lots of questions and sometimes take a step back. So I still reckon the best thing you can do is when you're young is lots of questions, going out with lots of different coaches, and sometimes take a step back and go, okay, yeah, it's a bit aspirational to have the highest crew possible, but sometimes taking low crews is the hardest coaching. And it's also, you've got more malleable new kids and things, so it's like, it's quite enjoyable working with younger people. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But I had the mighty A-tub and B-tub at Sydney High. So
I'd had the second 8 one year, so I'll make it up, but 88, 89, something like that. I had the co-coaching, like just coming out of school, helping out. And
88, 89?
1988, 89.
Sorry? Not what year? Sorry?
1988, 89.
What did you leave? I thought you left 92.
87.
Oh, 87. I thought you
Yeah,
said
I was coaching at High from 87.
Okay.
Yeah, so
What year did you row at the head of the river?
87.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 92.
Coaching. No, I was coaching 92.
Oh, you were coaching 92.
Yeah.
Okay.
But 88, 89, helping out with the second 8. Absolutely towed, right? Great guys, great crew, great guys. And I just remember myself and a couple of the other coaches went, if we keep doing this every year, we're going to keep getting the same staff. So we went to Grammar, Shaw and Scott's and we asked, have you got any equipment that we could have? Because we don't have many tubs at Sydney High, but we want to try and get a whole heap of kids rowing. So we got this big squad together of the year 8 kids, borrowed boats, oars, everything. And those guys were the guys that came fourth at head of the river, third at nationals. So you got to sometimes go, all right, what's the worst, hardest type of coaching is learn to row. But if you get the right kids and you look after them well, bang, 4 years later, yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. If you're a young coach, rather than just wanting to get your highest amount of money, I'll go to that school because they'll give me the best this. It's like, yeah, but where's that going to lead to? Do an apprenticeship. Go overseas. Try and put your hand up to be an assistant coach with a state crew or a Trans-Tasman or something, where you start to sit down with the other coaches and just listen.
To me, you're a great communicator. You're able to communicate very clearly about concepts that are quite complex, I think. What do you think? Why do you think you're a good coach?
Well, when you say, why do I think I'm a good coach?
Oh,
it's not like...
What quality do you think, what's a quality do you think that made you a great coach?
No, well...
Can I ask that or not?
You're going to make me blush. But no, because a lot of what it is, I was up at the schoolgirl head of the river this year, and I was sitting around with some guys, chatting to guys that some guys I haven't seen for a long time, right? But I bumped into guys who I used to coach in the early 90s who now have daughters and sons and whatnot rowing.
Sure.
So they were saying, what do you need in terms of getting their schoolgirl programs? And I said, like, the bottom line is you just need someone who really cares, right? Because once you've got someone who actually cares, all the little things will flow on.
Right.
No, but it's, you know what I mean? I remember, when I was a kid, looking at the people who were really good. A lot of the sports coaches who were exceptional coaches were school teachers.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the track...
But I reckon it's because they're good communicators. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
it's communicating your vision to a group of people, I think.
And someone who's excited about teaching.
And getting them to buy into it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Getting them to care. Getting other people to care, I think.
Yeah. So,
I think I think you got us to care in a different way because of the way that you communicated, That's all.
I kind of hope...
And the amount of stuff that I learnt from you, yeah.
That's
visualisation, belief, those, they stay with you. They stay with you. The physical limits, pushing physical limits, yeah.
So you think about, like, the people that I will always remember from Riverview, like you got Father Ramsey, like who was that sort of embodiment of whatever being an Ignatian really is. It's not a trademark. It's not 40,000 after tax. He's an Ignatian. And then you got Jim Bustede, right? Who is exactly like, it's hard, I don't want to say something that comes out the wrong way, but today, you talk about silos and all this sort of stuff. So the idea used to be
silos? What's that?
That you go, that's co-curricular and that's academic.
Right, sure.
And that the people who do academics don't coach, and the people that do coaching don't really teach.
Right.
And you've just, the one thing that is just, the teacher should be both.
Yep.
And now you have it where it's like, you don't want them, they're a teacher. You want to get outside coaches. And it's like, no. You want staff members who are in the staff room, who know what's going on if a kid's having problems with A, B and C. And that's why you got to have your Jim Busties. You got to have your Bob Sherlaws and your Gary Eubangangs, who are in the staff room.
Jim's not still at Riverview, is he?
100%.
Is he?
They won the 8, and it was the Jim Bustede.
Wow, how good's that?
Yeah, someone who drives the bus, someone who doesn't, someone who comes down to the boat shed and helps with study. So just, you don't have to be
a man for others. It's good education.
Exactly.
It is a good one.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I want to ask you this question, but Morgan used to do 100-metre sprint sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
No, physical 100-metre sprints.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, 20 hundreds.
Yeah, and how far out? What was it?
I'm pretty sure it was mostly at lunchtime.
Right.
But so a lot of the stuff...
You mentioned you'd go on a mystery row. I'd heard that was like a week before the head of the river sort of thing.
I think
Is
they
that
do it all
right?
the time. I think they did it all the time.
All the time?
But I don't know when he would have stopped it. And so I've been to places...
You mean every day? Or?
No, I don't think so.
No.
But again, a lot of the stuff is, myth and legend.
Yes.
But that was one of his things, They
Yeah.
I've still...
Why do you reckon that was, as a coach?
I think there's an element...
Do you think it was true? And why do you think he did it?
It's your classic thing that you wouldn't do it with your Olympic crew, but getting kids to line up, and we're doing 20 of these, 20 hundreds, there's 2,000 metres or whatever it might be, yeah?
20 hundreds, wow.
Yeah, it's
fascinating.
So Morgan, but the old weights program with Morgan with his super circuits, yeah?
Right.
So I think myself and Tim Dolphin called it the super shunting circuit. So
Yeah.
renamed it, right?
Right.
And so we were doing that in the mid to early or late 80s.
So where do you reckon he was getting that from? What was that?
It was just a competitive...
finding an edge, finding something different.
Out of his winning edge program, which is something he gave me. So
He had a winning edge program.
Yeah. So, but with the sprints...
Who do you think you've learnt the most from? Which coach? It sounds like you might have learned a lot from him.
Oh, look, I was very lucky again. I've got a lot of time and respect. The two people that I really think are standouts.
Yeah.
You got Tim McLaren and Paul Thompson.
Right.
In terms of like Reinhold Bartsch is a legend.
You learn a lot from those guys.
Yeah,
did you?
yeah. So the thing I think with Tim McLaren is you go technically like the guru, and then
technical guru.
Yeah, and an ability to get amazing results out of a club.
Yeah, right.
So he's taken a club.
Those UTS were the golden years, yeah? And you were there, right?
No,
you were part of it?
No, I did some little bits of coaching time to time. And I mean very little and more like school leaver stuff, right? But very little. But I used to go out with Ellen Randell and I'd go out with Tim, go out and sit in the speedboat, go up the Nepean River or just sit in the speedboat. But so then you got Paul Thompson.
How did you get yourself in there? They just happy to have you there, or
people? I think
happy to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is still. I think.
Did you ever ask someone on the they said no? Because it sounded like you got in a lot of boats.
Yeah, the Italians.
They didn't like it.
So we had out here.
What IP protecting their?
Yeah. So there was a guy here, Carlo Minardi. Okay, so he
these
coached.
names are bringing. Yeah, I know these names.
So Carlo did a year at Riverview.
Oh, right.
So stroke of the Italian men's Olympic multiple world champion.
Did a year at Review, right?
Because he was doing, he basically, I'll make a bit of this up, but just say in the Italian program, you were in. You didn't have a job, you didn't study, like you were part of the, but through that, he got a law degree or something, just didn't let the Italian hierarchy know.
Right.
So he came out to Australia and did some postgrad at UTS.
Right.
So he got a little job at Riverview helping out.
Right.
And so I was going over to Europe to do, because sometimes I'd just go Henley, Lucerne, and go to a couple of clubs, jump out in speedboats. And Carlo goes, you got to come to, I think it's Perdaluca, which is the Italian National Centre. It was all lined up, da-da-da-da-da. And I've gone to go, and Carlo's gone, no, the head coach says you're not allowed. He doesn't want anyone coming out watching. So that was the only time anywhere where the person's pulled the plug. Not Carlo, but...
Sure. Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. But otherwise, mate, I've just been...
You just got out there and you were keen. Talk to me, sorry. So why do you think Morgan did these 2000s?
I'd love to... this is all guesswork, but often, whether it's a circuit, you know, I was saying before, if it's
Because that shunting circuit was fascinating too.
Yeah,
because that's scientific, right? You're literally putting blood
This idea
to the
of-
other muscle, right?
and then some sort of aerobic in between this whole idea.
Yeah.
The concept of going from an upper body run, and there was some science behind it, right?
Yeah.
But we're still doing it at Riverview.
Still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So that's the thing too, like, you know.
Fascinating.
Yeah, you got to go and buy the little weights. So everything that's too small, then you say, all right, we're going to do this many circuits, la, 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 la.
You got any of those shunting programs around? I need to do a shunting program.
Mate, it'd kill you. So you do.
I'm sure it would.
No, but we just say it's twice a week down the boat shed. Anyone wants to come, they do the shunt. And
Wow.
so they
Geez, they get
literally
you fit, don't they?
Yeah. Music's pumping. Nuno's in there doing it.
Wow.
And then you do the
It's
hill.
like an F45, like similar, right?
But we break it down so it's like a block of it might be a 250, or a block might be a 500. So that even though it's just endurance weights with running, people are thinking we're taking it out here. What's our race plan? We're going to move through this part. So everything's got to be relevant. And I'd like to think that Morgan's got those guys lining up, and they're going to do these 20, 100-metre sprints, and they're going to leave nothing out there, because this first one's us taking it out of the start. This one might be we're at the 1,000-metre mark, we're going again, or you know what I mean?
Fascinating.
And so no one wants to fall back. You know, and it's
You were smart. You were clever to go and find that stuff out. No, you were, because it was getting results, and so if you want to get results, you got to go find out what they're doing.
Yeah, and not chase the most boring, like go talking to a sports scientist, right, who's been running national programs, and people go, oh, what are the high performance guys doing? It's like, well, you do that and you'll have a whole lot of kids dropping out. You'll have a whole lot of kids getting injured and sick, and you'll have a whole lot of crews that start there and finish the season there. Again, you know, if you go back to a 70s kind of 80s program, where it's more intense but not quite as much.
Got to be carried away there at stage.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
sure. The world of the professional rowing coach. It's fascinating. Fascinating sport. Yeah. Michael Doyle, everyone. Michael, thanks for coming on. Thank you very much.
It's been good. It's been a pleasure.